Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Matt VanFossen, the CEO of Absolute Home Mortgage, also a fintech guy, and now he's chairing one of the MBA's most important committees. So we wanted to have him on to talk about what's happening at the state level on regulation, what people need to be thinking about. Before we dive into that, I want to say thank you to Trust and Will, our sponsor, for making this episode possible. Matt, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Sarah.
Great to have you back. You know I love talking to you, and you have a new title. You are now chair of the SLRC. Did I get that right?
Yes, SLRC, the State Legislative Regulatory Committee for Mortgage Bankers Association.
Which is a very timely title, a great thing to talk about, because we know that, yes, this is a deregulatory administration, but the states have stepped up to say, let us fill the gap. So tell us what you're seeing out there.
Well, we're seeing a lot of stuff. And first, it's been absolutely a pleasure to work with everybody at MBA. And when they came to me and they asked if I wanted to do the state committee this year, I was just so excited about it because it was really an honor. Because that's exactly what we're seeing. The federal regulators are obviously being downsized. We know what's going on with the CFPB. We know the current administration's position. And we're seeing these individuals flow down into the states. So the state level issues are more prominent than ever. And it really just makes me feel that I can get a lot of work done for the industry. So it's going to be great. And we have a whole bunch of hot topics that we could talk about what's going on in the state. One is AI. The whole industry is talking about AI, but what a lot of us don't know is that this past year, over 200 legislative attempts have been made for states to pass some type of AI mortgage bills or AI data bills.
Wow.
And we've been tracking this stuff like crazy, and it's really remarkable. And what's really interesting is you actually saw a couple of states last year actually successfully pass legislation. So Colorado is one notable one, and when you go look at Colorado, what's interesting is they passed it, but it seems like they really raced to be the first to get an AI bill through, but a lot of them didn't really know what was inside of it, and it doesn't look like they're too happy with it right now.
Yeah, okay, so I saw the coverage afterwards where people seemed to be surprised about that. And from my perspective, when I think about a mortgage company, they've got to think about their own practices, but also all that vendor risk they might have when you think about how are their vendors using AI, handling AI, especially with all the personal information.
Well, part of my concern with it is what I call a broad stroke approach at AI legislation, that we as an industry have been using certain forms of AI in maybe what you wouldn't define as a definition of AI for years, rule-based decision making.
Right.
A lot of our GSEs have automated engines tied into it. So having any type of legislative bill that says that you have to allow a consumer, let's say, to completely opt out from AI has all of these unintended consequences. Well, maybe I can't sell that loan to the secondary market because I can't even run AUS on it then.
Gosh.
What about servicing? When you call into the servicing system, it's an automated attendant. Well, does that have certain components of what we think is AI is, okay, using ChatGPT maybe
Right.
at times, right? Using these LLM engines. But when you go look at the legislation and how detailed it gets, some of these items start crossing over into our other systems. And that's the most important part of it. So what we're doing is we're really focusing on educating.
Okay.
Through MBA, we're working with the education committee, and this is really across all aspects of MBA. All the committees are working together to figure out, okay, how do we go and educate regulators and educate legislators at the state level to go and inform them, hey, there's a bunch of systems and tools that have created consumer efficiency at the mortgage company that have saved consumers costs. When you're passing these bills, let's not look at that. But what we do want to look at is things like the application takers, the conversational consumer-facing AI, and design what we call off-ramps, where a consumer that maybe doesn't want to have a conversation with a bot, and they want a human-based process, they have that ability to get to that human loan originator and have that done transparently, where they know they're not, it's very clear and transparent to them that they're actually not talking to a human. They don't want it to be unfair, misleading, or deceptive.
Wow. I mean, I think the other challenge I see with any sort of legislation is how fast AI capabilities are changing. So how in the world is that legislation keeping up? And then that's just another layer, I feel like, for companies trying to really do the efficient thing, the cost-effective thing for the borrower. Like, they don't need that.
Well, I actually think that's a phenomenal point. When you look at like certain provisions of RESPA and marketing guidelines that were passed 30 plus years ago, and we still haven't reformed it and updated the guidelines to internet-based marketing procedures.
Crazy.
So we're going to go past some of these laws, and then how do we ever go and unwind them when we have a track history in our industry and in our country of, okay, yeah, we pass it, and then now it's codified into law, but it doesn't cover the natural evolution of where technology in the industry goes. So I actually think it's a phenomenal point that we shouldn't be racing to the gun for it, but we still do need to have proper consumer protections in place.
So you told me that, which I was not aware of, you guys have a resource for lenders, for MBA members,
Yes.
on these state level, things that are coming through. Tell me about that.
Well, like I was saying, we saw with the downsizing of federal oversight, as it appears, particularly at the CFPB level, we're seeing a lot more activity at the states, and I think you and I talked about this even on previous podcasts. When Chopra left, he left a manifesto of how to do state-based regulation to the regulators, and they're taking that seriously, and it's even going into the state legislators. So what MBA has now is we have the lookup database where you can go into your MBA portal and you can go look at all of the state legislation that's actively being worked on and being proposed. Not even the stuff's being passed. As the bills are being proposed in real time, it updates every single day, and you can see it in real time. And this is, I'll do a plug for Mortgage Action Alliance really quick. This is the importance of MA, that we need loan officers to now get engaged. We need loan officers to log into their portal for the first time, sign up for MA, because you can see all the state bills, anything that affects your business, and then you can click two buttons and write a letter to the state senator. They make it so easy for you. So we have tons of resources at MBA for anybody that wants to get involved.
I think this is so key, because this is why there is an advocacy organization, because you sitting out there as a loan officer, even you own a mortgage banking company, if you own a mortgage lender, what kind of resources would you have to put out there to be able to even know this is coming, much less like we have a plan, here's the action you need to take. This is why you have a trade org.
Sure. It's interesting. I own and operate Absolute Home Mortgage, and we're a mid-size IMB. We're not a small company, but we're a mid-size company. But I don't have the budget. I have the budget for a compliance department, but not an entire regulatory affairs department.
Absolutely.
And some of our top 10, top 20 lenders, they do have that. And that's awesome, but for the average mortgage banker, this is why MBA is so important, and so important to be involved, because we need our political action committees, we need our lobbyists, we need our trade organization to go and keep us informed of what's going on, but also get the feedback from its members to say, okay, yeah, this is what we really need for our business today.
And it's so powerful when you have that ground level, when you have an LO reach out to their rep or to their anybody that there's in Congress or House of Representatives, because that says to them that this has reached this level. It's not just like, oh, we're hearing from an advocacy organization, We're hearing from this. It's like, that's where the strength lies. And I think it's easy for people. Long time ago, I did an internship on Capitol Hill, and that is a huge thing. Like, they read those things.
Yeah. Well, because those are their constituents.
Yes.
When you go into Mortgage Action Alliance portals, it goes down to the exact town and county that you live in. You're putting your home address in, so it's routing it to your constituent right inside of their district, and that's why it's so impactful. And the conversation of loan originator level involvement is happening more so than ever at MBA level, because we need the ground game.
I love that. Okay, besides AI, what else is coming up?
So we have a couple other interesting items going on at state and local. One is this thing called zombie mortgages, as they're referred to. We like to call them dormant liens.
That's a nicer way to say it. Not as catchy, though.
Not as catchy, right? Not as much of the BuzzFeed, but more California in particular, we're seeing more activity on this. But it's HELOCs and paid off seconds that have never been discharged. and they're sitting dormant at these servicers, and they were closed off. And even back, I don't remember the Wells Fargo issues from years ago. I'm not saying they were opening HELOCs, but we know that there's all of these banks that had HELOCs open, they just weren't discharged. So getting these dormant mortgages off the books is really, really important in closing them out and having transparency with the consumers. So we're going to see a little bit of legislative action around us monitoring that as well.
And that's at the state level?
That is at the state
Okay.
level, yes. That's
Interesting.
at the state level. So we have that going on. Oh man, there's so many other things too.
Let's see, you have CRA concerns, correct?
CRA concerns, yes. So this one hits a little home for me because the current most prominent one is New Jersey.
Oh,
So
okay.
my home state, I served 4 years as the president for New Jersey Mortgage Bankers, and we currently have a bill that it looks like it's trying to get pushed through, and we're going to find out really in the next 2 weeks. It comes down to the gubernatorial election, because if Jack Ciattarelli gets in, what you could see is them try to fast track this CRA legislation to go get it passed in a lame duck session. And then once it gets passed, it's very hard to unwind it. So we've been educating the sponsor of the bill and their offices on it. It's going well, but we've been doing the talking points. We've been showing that IMBs already represent the underserved community. We're already servicing this community, and we are not depositories. There is
Right.
nothing to reinvest. And what our biggest concern in New Jersey in particular is they have a mandatory item inside of the bill that says every lender licensed in the state needs to be audited on CRA once every 3 years. And what we were showing the sponsor of the bill is, look, the department has limited resources to begin with.
Right.
The cost attributed, there's over 1,100 licensed lenders, and by the way, most of them are not located in the state.
Exactly.
These are all remote examinations, so you're going to take lenders that are not in the state, that have in-office or state requirement, in-office marketing requirements potentially because of the CRA bill, because they want involvement in those communities, and then you're going to try to examine them. This is a burden, and all it's going to do is rack up examination costs on the state, increasing the state budget for the department. And then on the lenders, we're going to be spending more money on compliance than actually doing what we do now, which is servicing that community. So New Jersey is definitely going to be a state to watch by the end of the year for CRA, and then we see trailing bills all over the Northeast.
Okay.
We saw one in New York. We're seeing Pennsylvania and Connecticut line up as well. So I think everybody's kind of watching that Northeast corridor for CRA right now.
I feel like it goes back to the understanding, like when you talk about the RESPA laws before the internet. CRA laws, in the world that we live in now, where IMBs are the majority of mortgage, lenders, and that, like you said, they may not have a brick and mortar. They may not even be there. It's just like this, it's like a dinosaur coming in from the past. Like, if there's an issue there, let's figure out what actually the risk is or the underservedness is in the reality, and not
Correct.
just whatever is left over from before.
Well, what's difficult is CRA makes sense on paper.
Right.
When you look at it, you say, okay, yes, we're not going to take deposits from within a community, take money from the community, and then go take that money outside and bring it to other communities. No, we're going to invest that back into infrastructure of that community, giving those loans back to that community for real estate development, marketing, home ownership. But the problem we face with IMBs is we don't take in deposits.
Right.
So
what do you want us to do?
Right. I said we should just be calling it the Community Investment Act, not Reinvestment Act, because we're just investing in the community. But I think the most comical part about all of it is that's who we're serving to begin with.
Absolutely.
And I don't think you'll ever meet an independent mortgage banking loan officer that has the opportunity to take an application regardless of where it is, and they're going to say, no, I don't want to take that application.
It's like, have you met loan officers?
Right.
Just saying. Okay, anything else on your radar?
So, the AI stuff is going to be really, really prominent. We're educating ResBog on a lot of these items, but more so than anything, it's going to be about watching what is happening across these 50 states.
Okay.
And I think that's kind of going to be the most important thing, is that we have to monitor. And we are working very hard to have better alignment with our state and local MBA trade associations, because we believe that that's where this fight now has to happen. that we have federal covered, but we need loan originators and mortgage companies to be more engaged with their state and local associations, so they're finding out what's going on inside of their home state. You got to play a home game defense, if you will.
I love that. And, just from our perspective, we see a much more active state level organizations. I mean,
Yeah.
at least, our activity with them, our connections with them have grown over the last year quite a bit.
Yeah, we're seeing some great conferences at the state level. And the worst part about all of it is they need better attendance. Everybody needs better attendance for this industry. And it is a lot of executives, it's a lot of vendors that go out, but what we need the compliance officers to show up.
Right.
We need the underwriting managers to show up. We need the loan originators to show up. We need to get back in person in this industry at each state association, start having that conversation so the state trade organizations are reporting back to us on our monthly calls and saying, this is the hot button issues. This is what's going on. This is what we're seeing. And then we have a more combined voice together.
I'm going to be at Texas MBA on November 4th, I think it is, in Austin. So
There you go.
I think this is really a great message to get out. Is like, this is a different battle. Okay, so yes, the federal part's taken care of. People still need to be active there, but if you don't do it here, it's going to affect your actual business. It's going to affect your bottom line if you don't know what's going on in your state.
Sure, absolutely. It's more, we've been saying it for a year.
Right.
Well, almost. When did Chopra send a letter? January 14th?
Yeah.
So almost a year.
You put us on notice.
Right. But we knew for 350 somewhat days already that the environment and climate was going to change.
Right.
And there's so much going on at the federal level too. We're seeing potential reform for MLO compensation, RESPA reform, right? So I feel bad for some of the great people at MBA because they I don't want to say that they're spread thin by any means, because they have a great ground game and they're truly amazing people, but they are just working on fighting so many fights right now, but it's all positive. And something that's been really great is I think we've had one of the best legislative years at MBA we have seen in so long. We got trigger bills through, right?
That was amazing.
We got our VA issues through. We just had a great legislative year, and I think that's going to continue. We'll see GSE reform. Like I said, MLO comp reform hopefully next year. All this has to take proposed rulemaking and go through that standard cycle on the Hill, but we're actually seeing activity and action.
Okay. Our audience, if you're out there listening, take this as your call to action to get involved at the state level and, of course, with the national organizations. Matt, thank you so much for stepping by, giving us this insight, and we will be checking back with you quarterly to find out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.